Hello, this is Kevin, and today we're talking about the introduction to e-takeoff dimensions. This will be the second video of the series for just doing basic takeoff. So let's get started. We talked about pages and shifting pages and all that type of thing in the previous video. I had the bird's eye view on here that we're using. I still like the bird's eye view, but I'm going to move it over here just to kind of reduce some of the stuff on the right side when I add some more things to it, so that way I can still see my traces when I'm ready for it, to help me do takeoff on certain things that we'll take a look at later in this section, and then also the different pages that we had talked about. So that way over here, I'm going to make this control panel some different topics like I want a measurement summary in here. I want my quantity list in here, and I'm going to say I want my favorites over here. So this is where we said in the prior video that you can add as many control panels as you want. You can slide those to other screens and so forth. So this is where I could just kind of map out the things that I want to see when I want to see them. So when I get started, the first thing that I really need to think about when I'm doing takeoff is scale. So as I go up here to this right-hand side button up to the top, this is where I set the scale. You set the scale one of two ways. So I could go to the standard drop-down list and pick the scale from the list. I can also type in a known distance, and I can hit calibrate. That would actually allow me to enter point 1, enter point 2, and it would come up with like an auto scale for what the length of that line is. In this case here, I'm just going to go ahead and pick the scale off the list here. And now I want to start thinking about some measurements. So as I go through here, let's say that I've got some different, different wall types or things of that nature going along here. I just want to find some lineal footages, let's just say. So I'm going to just say that these wall types are like a B type. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I want a length. When I go to do a measurement, I got a couple different choices. So a lot of the time I like to give them some sort of a name. So I might say wall type B or something of that nature. I might set a color if I want different colors and so forth, which I'd highly recommend. And then also whether you want to save this as standard trace. So we haven't talked about standard traces yet. That's basically what this list is over here. And what that is it's something that I would do frequently. So if this is something that, hey, we have type 1 walls on a lot of projects, I could save it as a standard trace. So that way it would be over in this window that I could just pick it and start doing measurements. In this case here, I'm going to not save it as a standard. So I could just go continue on. And then basically it's just really a matter of entering wherever my linear footage goes. So if I want to go ahead and say that I've got something from, here to here, I could go off and follow along if I wanted to. I might also go through if there's times of maybe I want to cut this line off. So I can say I've got a disconnected point to cut that line off, and maybe I want to jump down through here for a little bit. Some of those type of things. Now, if I hover over that, it'll also tell me that the letter G also does the disconnect for me. So sometimes that's easier to just use it. And I'm just kind of going through and entering in starting and stopping points of where these lines go. Maybe I'm hitting my control or my G there to drop off the original points, and maybe I've got some sort of measurements made there. So as I do some measurements, you'll see over here that it's going to say wall type B, almost 160 foot long, so forth at this moment. As we're doing takeoff, if I had some other wall type or something of that nature, maybe I can come back up here and let's say that the pool is going to have something different around it. So maybe I'll just say wall type C or something different. Let's say it's going to be a little different color, and I still don't want to save that as a standard trace. So for some reason there, again, maybe I could come along here and everything around this pool area here. Let's say it's a different wall type for some reason. So that way, as I'm going through, you could just start to tell, got 159 foot of wall type B. I've got 100 foot of wall type C as I'm going through and just doing takeoff. And if I go back and say that maybe I've got some more wall type B to take off and so forth, I might come up and say I want some more disconnected points, and I could come up and start measuring somewhere else, and it'll just kind of keep tallying those together as I need more takeoff. If I go through and let's say I want to do like an area, so I'm going to go up and say that I want to do a square footage of something, and maybe I'll do the square footage of the pool area here or something of that nature. So I'll just go up to area. Some sort of a description for it. There again, some sort of color of whatever I want to associate it with. I don't need to save this one here. I'm going to just say okay. And there again, it's just a matter of the tracing out and figuring out where that area is going to be. Now for areas, clockwise is a positive number. Counterclockwise is a negative number. So as I come through here, I can take off this area here. And maybe that area is done. So I've got 1937 there. But if I wanted to go ahead and say maybe I've got a disconnected point in this area, I'm going to take off going in the opposite direction here. Now I can also do a 1 point, a center point, an end point. And hit the letter C for curve, which will do kind of an arc for me. So that way I can kind of come in there and hit the C there too. And 1 point, the center point, an end point, C for that there. So it just kind of draws it a little bit more curved instead of doing multiple points. And maybe that's my area there. So now I could tell that after I deduct that out, I'm down to 1,300 square foot if I wanted to know what this area was. And I could come back and subtract the spa out and those type of things. So that's kind of how basic lineal footages, areas come into play and so forth. As I'm going through doing takeoff, it's also very popular then that I'm going to have, let's say I'll go to another page here, and maybe I've got some more of that wall type that I had. And if you notice, each page kind of starts off with whatever takeoff is associated with that page. So if I go back to the first page I was working on, if I know that I want to be taking off more wall type B or the pool areas or things of that nature, I can click on one of them, and I can drag them over here to something called a group favorite or project favorite. So a project favorite's, hey, anywhere on this project, I can go off and just tally up more wall type B. Group global favorite might be something about over multiple jobs. So if it's something that's very common there, again, I wanted to go ahead and set it up where I can just have a favorite out there. So it's got all my favorite colors and things like that, because maybe I don't want to trace for some reason. That's the way I can have something out there for multiple pages. So same type of game. If I then go back to this other plan page, I start picking wall type B. I didn't pay attention to the scale though, so let's double check. I'm assuming it's the same 32nd. So same type of thing. So basically just start going off and measuring whatever your lines are and so forth, and it's going to tally up 35 foot of wall type B on this page and 185 feet on this other page and so forth. And when I start getting done with things or wanted to know some different quantities and things of that nature, I might go to like my measurement list, and my measurement list might go ahead and show me things about on this page you had 185, on this page you had 35. So you've got a total of 220 foot of wall type B, those type of things. So that way, even though I might take that off from multiple pages, this can go ahead and summarize it and put it all together into one area. So that's what it kind of looked like using a favorite and just doing some basic takeoff there. Next thing I want to take a look at then is standardized traces. So a trace is something that can help me quantify things at the same time I'm doing takeoff. So when I took off this wall, it said 185 feet. If I wanted to go ahead and say that maybe I'm not using like Sage estimating or things like that where I've got that linked up with it, but maybe I want to know some other dimensions along the way and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick this one here, let's say. So this standard trace, I can go off and then make a measurement of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do one segment here is fine for what I'm doing. Now, when I did that segment, other questions came up along the way. So I could tell that that was 16 foot of wall, but it also has these questions here. So this is where I could go through and tell it what's my wall size. So maybe I'm going to make this out of 2x4 materials. What's the wall height? Maybe it's a 10-foot tall wall, 16 inches on center, 2 sides to it for doing the wall. Let's say that I'm going to do maybe some 4x12 sheets, 2 top plate, 1 bottom plate. And if you notice, now the system's going to go off and not only take on some questions, but it's going to actually give me dimensions that, hey, I've got the 32 foot of top plate. I've got 16 foot of bottom plate. I've got 15 studs. I've got 300 square foot of wall area or number of sheet or tape. So there again, if I'm not feeding this over to an estimating system, this can be handy because that way I can then take that information and potentially do something else with it. So these standard try traces could just be a basic lineal footage or an area like I did, or they can have what's called extensions on them where they can actually have more questions and calculations within themselves to calculate something for me. Now, the other type of trace that I'm going to take a look at here a little bit is this is also for those that are using like Sage Estimating. A trace could be an item from your database or an assembly. So this is an example of, in my database, I've got an SOG, an exterior slab assembly. When I go off and do some takeoff with it, so I'm just going to go ahead and just do something, don't really matter what it is there. So it's going to know the square footage. It's going to ask for some sort of depth. So if I said that was 6 inches or something of that nature, what the strength is. So now keep in mind that these questions that I'm looking at here, these are the questions that's coming from your Sage Estimating assembly. So in mine, it was very basic, just a 2-question assembly or 3-question with area, depth, and strength. But this could be something that if you've got 30 questions in your estimating, it could come up and be asking me that. So as I'm doing takeoff, I can associate this because in a later video, I'm going to show you how to actually take this information and push that through to an estimate. So that way I don't have to re-enter this information because it was associated with an item in estimating. It automatically knows what to take off for me when I push this over. That pretty much concludes this session. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out the next session where we're going to get into some more efficient ways of doing takeoff that we don't have to click all the corners manually and things of that nature. Thanks for watching.